Hello and welcome to Senior Solutions, where we discuss topics impacting seniors and those who care for them. I'm your host, Mindy Felinton. I'm joined today by my guest, Marie Zeller, also known as Aunt Snooky.
Yeah.
Aunt Snooky's here today, and she's going to share an inspirational story about how she has overcome suffering from a stroke and has gone on to live a most exciting life. And I thank you so much for being here today.
Well, it's great to be here, Mindy. I met you through my nephew who I'm visiting today. And I would like to just say about the stroke, this is his 10th year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. In September will be the actual anniversary. So I've had 10 years to, have lived with it. There are a lot of things that I've done in that 10 years in terms of my career and my traveling, and I would be happy to go into some detail about that if you wish.
Sure, that would be great. But if we could, would you share a little bit about the experience of having the stroke, how, kind of giving the audience an idea of what the debilitation was that you suffered from, and briefly talk a little bit about the period of rehab, and then we'd love to hear you to go on and explain all of the exciting things you've done career-wise, travel-wise, volunteers, and I know you've just been on a whirlwind since that experience.
Well, I was sitting at a dinner with my niece in California, and it was a farmer's market dinner. That everything was made by the farmer's market. And all of a sudden, they had little round potatoes like this. All of a sudden, I couldn't cut it with a fork and a knife. And so I picked it up with my fingers. Here's this, everybody eating with utensils, and tried to eat it with my left hand. My right hand just wouldn't work. And so we were with a couple, and the couple said, you better get to the emergency. And so my niece drove me over there, and when we were over there, I couldn't write my name. I had to hold the pen with my fist to write it, and I just felt like something had happened. Well, they did all sorts of tests, and like a brain scan and this and that and the other thing. They had a neurologist come in. I was in the hospital for a while, and then they wanted to put me in rehab, and I was just intent on going home. I said, look, if you send these occupational therapists and physical therapists out to my house, I'll do anything they say. I just want to be at my house. Well, I talked them into it, and so they
That's a shock.
I know, because
knowing you.
Well, so they came out, and we started walking slowly around my neighborhood. Steps were a challenge at first. And first of all, they wouldn't let me go home from the hospital until I walk up 5 steps and walk down 5 steps at the hospital. So I was bound and determined to do that as soon as I could. They have these little steps in the rehab room. And I did that. And so I was getting to the, and then they gave me exercises like put a bunch of rice on the table and take one piece of rice and put it here to there. And then another piece of rice and put it there to there. And I'm thinking, what kind of ridiculous is that? I'd rather take a little weed out of my garden and put it in the trash, and another little weed out of my garden and put it in the trash. Same thing. So I was telling this to the occupational therapist, and she said, that's okay. You can do that. It doesn't have to be the rice. But I'm getting too detailed now because I want to say, generally speaking, one of the things that in stroke survivor groups that I have been really grateful of is that there is a feeling of wanting to turn around the perception of how to talk about strokes. For one thing, we are saying we survived a stroke, not that we suffered a stroke. Some people call people stroke victims. We call ourselves stroke survivors. It's a positive way. And I think it changes how you kind of feel about things.
The outlook. Your outlook is you're a survivor.
To the extent that I now belong to a group called SSSO, means Stroke Survivors Starting Over. And this is a group of us who've had strokes, We get together quarterly to talk about, our issues. But our main thing is that we go around to hospitals who have rehab units for strokes, and we say there's life after stroke. That's our main message. There is life after a stroke. We had a stroke. We survived it. So you can survive it too.
And you're here to tell the story.
And I'm here to tell the story.
And is that a national organization or is that a local?
No, I think it was just a local organization started by a person who had a stroke, and it was her brainchild. She'd got it about 2 years before my stroke. I knew she had had a stroke. She was a friend of mine. And I saw it, and she said, would you like to join that group? We only take people after they've had a stroke for 2 years to see how it is after 2 years. So after 2 years, I joined it, and I've been a member ever since.
Well, just so the audience knows, you have come here today all the way from San Francisco.
Yeah, I came here from San Francisco.
And tell us also, there's another reason that you're here, which is a fabulous reason.
Well, the fabulous reason that I'm here is I'm here for my 50th college reunion at Juniata College in Huntington, Pennsylvania. And it's and they've asked me to make some comments. And so I've researched what 50 years ago was to us all. And it's just a magic year as far as I'm concerned, because that's the year that, Martin Luther King walked on Washington. Big deal for the African Americans. It's the year that Kennedy was assassinated. That was a big deal for me because I was going into the Peace Corps. I was in training for going into the Peace Corps right there then. And it was actually the year that Betty Friedan wrote The Feminine Mystique, interestingly. And so there were a lot of things of people wanting to have a say-so in the world and in their lives. And I mean, women, blacks, whatever. And I think that now, it doesn't have much to do with the stroke per se, but now, 50 years from all of that happening, we are in a good position to evaluate how did that all work out. There are some people who think, that the women still don't have quite the same pay as men. So you had President Obama try to help fix that with the Lilly Ledbetter Act, which I thought was great. You certainly have with the African American community concerns that they are not being treated equally. So I think that we've made some strides, but I think it's a good time to evaluate some of those things.
Well, I think it's going to be great, and I wish I could be there to hear your presentation.
Well, I'm still working on it. I realize this is the way I went to college. I usually crammed at the last minute.
Well, you did just fly in last night.
Yes,
pretty late.
Well, I have been doing a little work on it too. But I think that the other thing that has made me really feel good, both before and after the stroke, was I got involved with something that's very near and dear to my heart, and that is farmers markets.
Tell me about that.
Well, when I was growing up, and our family grew up in the middle of Kansas, the geographical center, and we had a garden that was so big, and all us kids, we had to go out and weed the garden every time we had a chance. And we had tomatoes, and we had corn on the cob, and everything was good. And I didn't realize how good those tomatoes were until I went out into a later life and saw tomatoes that look like tomatoes, but they taste like cardboard in comparison. That's true. Well, and
don't hold back.
Well, so when I went to Turkey in the Peace Corps, I realized that we were in a great part of Turkey because it was where there were long summers. It's sort of like Southern California, and they had fresh everything right to the table, local. It had just been picked that day. Not to get gross or anything, but we saw our chickens being cut, their heads cut off and running around, with no heads, and then drained of their blood, and that we were taking home to eat, and so it was fresh, you'd have to say.
Yes, I would imagine so.
So anyway, there was a woman who was very interested in putting together a farmer's market in San Francisco. And I was at a meeting with her one day, and I was writing down notes and stuff like that, and she said, "Are you a reporter?" I said, "No, I'm writing down notes because I'm interested in a project that's going to be on the waterfront." She said, "Well, I'm interested in a project that's going to be on the waterfront. I want to put a farmer's market on the waterfront." And she said, "Well, would you work with me?" I said, because I said I was a city planner. I would be happy to help you get the permits through the city. So we actually worked together on getting that. So it ended up, she needed to have a board of directors. She said, "Marie, would you like to be on the board of directors?" I said, "Okay." So that's what we did, and we got this fabulous, I don't know if you've been to it or not. Everybody should go, by the way.
I'd love to.
Farmers market on the at the waterfront.
Where is it there?
It's right on it's right at the ferry building, right at the foot of Market Street.
Okay, and I was there. I didn't even realize that.
The farmers market that we're involved with is the one on the outside. They have now made the inside into this beautiful food court where you can get everything,
yes,
and have some pretty high-end restaurants.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
The slanted door is there.
Gorgeous
The
place.
market bar is there. They have raw oysters are there from up north. It's just a great place. You can get anything, I would say, you want there, including the best chocolate in the world. So Schleffenhofers or whatever. I think that's the word.
And you got involved in doing all of this after you had your stroke.
Now, actually, I had the stroke right in the middle of that, and so and this is another thing about stroke, I would say, I really wanted no one to think that having the stroke made me less.
Mm-hmm. You didn't skip. You don't want anybody to think you were going to skip a beat.
I didn't want to skip a beat, and so I went through this phase of not telling anybody, trying to hide it, trying to act like everything was normal, and that was hard to do. It's much easier to just say, "I had a stroke, that's my reason." Now, sometimes when I forget something, I blame it on the stroke. Then I look at my friends, they're forgetting things all the time, they never had a stroke, so I'm wondering if it just has to do with getting old. It might. I don't know. But I loved working with the farmers, I have to say. I enjoy getting those tomatoes like I had when I was a kid. Maybe it's just a reversion back to those tomatoes that taste. But
well, I know what you're saying because I grew up in Philadelphia, and we would always get stuff fresh from the farm in New Jersey, the corn and the tomatoes, and they were just the real thing.
Yeah,
flavorful.
Yeah, they had flavor.
Yeah,
that's the good thing. So when I graduated from college, which is the college I'm going back to for the 50th reunion, I went directly into the Peace Corps. I'm getting back to that timeline there. And
well, you know what we can do? We're going to take a short break.
Okay.
And when we come back from the break, we can start hearing more about that. And I'd like to go on and also have you share with the audience all of the other things that you've been doing, because I know you've been traveling the world.
Well, I have been doing some traveling, yes, that's for sure.
And all the other wonderful volunteer things that you've been involved with as well.
Sure.
So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Weight loss, it's one of the many ways to fight osteoarthritis pain. For more information on managing pain, go to fightarthritispain.org.
Welcome back to Senior Solutions, where we bring you topics impacting seniors and those who care for them. I'm your host, Mindy Felinton, and I'm joined today by Marie Zeller, also known as Aunt Snooky. And she's here sharing with us her experience of life after stroke. And where we left off, Marie, you were sharing with us about your Turkey journey and how that was important for you and how that kind of translated into life after stroke.
Yeah. I think that the inspiration I got from being in Turkey was lifelong. And so when the stroke, and it had to do with learning how other people live and seeing the pluses of fresh food. And food was probably a theme in all of this. But when the stroke came along, I thought it was just a big, fat thing in the way. And I wanted to get it out of the way. And for a while, I went into this thing of trying to hide it from people that I had had a stroke. And so I was trying to go and continue on like as if things, like I was just gone for a little while, and then I came back. And oh, well, where were you? Well, I was just gone for a while. I was vague about it. But now I kind of think more, well, it's a plus to have survived the stroke, because, I really feel like I appreciate living more just because I'm alive. And I also appreciate people who, like my relatives, and my mother was still alive at the time. My mother, I spent a lot more time with her than I had before, at my family, just in general. And I think that it sort of made me feel like, by gosh, I'm going to continue to travel. And so I really did do that. We went to Japan, and then we went to China. My most mind-boggling was going to Egypt. Those pyramids are unbelievable, big, huge. How did they build them back there when they had no machinery? I couldn't watch them enough. But I think my favorite always has been to come back to Turkey, because it was where I started. So I've gone back quite a number of times to see the folks, and also just to see the Turks. They're so nice. They would give, you say, I like that picture on the wall, they'd take it off the wall and give it to you.
I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm ready. My bags are packed.
Or, don't ask them for, that thing they're wearing. I mean, because they might take that off. I basically just love them. They're so giving, and as a matter of fact, I hope to go back next year. I have a good Turkish friend who I almost always see when I come to Washington, D.C., and she makes the best fasulye, which is a bean dish that I absolutely love. And she makes the buraks and all of the Turkish food. And we were talking about what we were going to have this time. And she said, I'm going to make a Turkish food. I'm going to make everything you like. And to me, that's just heaven. Sitting around the table with people that you like, having good food. And I think that that's what I wanted to be sure continued after the stroke. So I've been kind of in a mode of trying to say the stroke is over there, and this is my life now. It's over here. So I'm not totally throwing it out the window as something that happened, but I'm saying I want it to be less of a big deal than a lot of people wish it want it to be. I mean, people are curious about what a stroke is. Some of them have had, some of them have not had. But the ones that we visit in the hospital, in Stroke Survivors Starting Over, they have just been hit. And they think they don't know what's going on. Like, I felt like I didn't know what was going on when I couldn't write my name. I thought, what's going on? And I'm just telling them there's life after a stroke. So that's, if there's any message that I would like to say, is that there is life after a stroke. You just have to do it. And sometimes it takes a little hard work. Like this balance thing was getting me down, and I was just not knowing what to do. And so somebody suggested yoga, a friend of mine. And so I started going to this yoga class, and I started being just really going to it. I went to a retreat in Maui for a week long, 3 times a day, 2 hours each time, and nonstop, go to bed at 9 o'clock, get up at 6 o'clock, in the dark, all this time. And I really got into it, and I do really believe that the yoga really helped. If for no other reason, it got some of the muscles stronger, so that when I'm walking or standing, I feel more equalized. The other thing is that I started Tai Chi, and it was, again, just a little friend said, oh, we felt Tai Chi was a good thing. So I started that Tai Chi. I will not miss that class if I possibly can, although I'm missing it Thursday. But because I'm going to be here.
Well, they probably have one someplace here. So you could still go.
Maybe so.
We'll find you one.
Oh, right. So, but it's one where, when you do the exercise.
Yes, my brother used to do Tai Chi with swords.
They're slow and they're very graceful, and sometimes you're supposed to be on there's this chicken walk where you're supposed to be on one leg up in the air and then the other leg up in the air. Well, he's so forgiving, the teacher, is he says, if you really can't keep it up, you just put it down and keep your hand up, and then maybe longer and longer you'll be able to keep it up. Well, there's this one lady in the class. She can now keep it up almost as long as the real Tai Chi professionals do. So, it's possible. And maybe I'll get there. I'm not there yet. But, it's something that I feel has been very helpful in terms of the balancing. I still grab on to somebody, if they're handy, when I'm going downstairs without a banister. It just makes me feel more,
safe.
Secure.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's for sure.
And have you changed anything else in your life, like your diet, nutritionally?
Well,
any adjustments there?
I have probably gone to less meat, almost no red meat. And that's, my yoga teacher is just a total nothing.
Vegan?
Total vegan guy. He doesn't believe in salt or pepper or onions or garlic.
Oh my gosh, that's...
He doesn't believe in those.
Well,
and so when we were at the retreat, he didn't have any of that stuff in any of the recipes.
Did you sneak it in?
Nope, I survived. I decided I'm going to obey every one of his things and see if it makes a difference. Well, it did. Maybe it made a difference. I was regular, but it basically, I felt that I like to put garlic in a lot of stuff. So
well, and they say it's good for you. I don't know.
But
that's what I hear they say.
Well, and I don't believe everything. I hope he doesn't see this program. I don't believe in everything he says. So I vary it to suit my needs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you were going through the medical bills and things like that you incurred from the stroke, did you have any issues? Were those doctor's bills and hospital stays paid for?
Well, I had the stroke before I went into Medicare, and when all the bills came in, I forget what the number was. It was in the 6-digit category. The low 6 digits, let's say. I can't remember specifically. And I was charged $1,000. Now, that was in my office where I was working at the time, paid our medical at the time. That office doesn't do that anymore. But then I went into Medicare, and I was sort of phasing into being a private consultant because the economy was bad at the time. Anyway, so as I was being a private consultant and not having my own, not having the office pay, I turned 65. And so then Medicare happened, and I thought I had died and gone to heaven. It was like all of a sudden my copays were $10.
Nice.
From 40. They didn't seem to question anything. And I'm not saying they were perfect, but I was very happy with Medicare. And then when this new Affordable Care Act came along, and there were some additional provisions that would have affected me, I was very happy about that too. And I think that we've got to take care of everybody in that thing. But I do think they were very good for me. Now, I will say I didn't have a stroke as a precondition in my work coverage. And I think that nobody can predict when somebody's going to have a stroke, or at what age, or anything like that. But I was very happy that I had the coverage that I had. And I do think that that the Medicare and the Affordable Care Act are very helpful, especially for me. I can only speak for myself personally.
Of course. Well, I think it would be helpful for people to know that that wasn't something that you had to deal with because you had that coverage.
Yes.
And that was probably helpful in removing that stressor that some people might not have the luxury of having.
Yeah.
So you were very fortunate in so many ways.
I was very, very happy about that.
If you could kind of sum up what you believe were the qualities that you possess, or the things, your thought processes that helped you to get to the other side, to be able to be a survivor.
Well, I think I had an attitude. I went through a number of phases, including denial, not having had it, tried to hide it, all of that. But I think when I saw the pluses, I felt like it was not that bad to have had the stroke, because I really feel like I learned how to enjoy life more. I mean, things that I would always put off, like going for a beautiful walk or something like that, let's say, because I had to do work or something. I would probably go for a walk now instead. And I think that I just enjoyed some of the things that I didn't feel like I had time for before. Because, you know, when you come close to thinking that you're going to lose it all, it's a lot. It changes your mind about a lot of stuff that maybe you want to be with your family more or something. And I appreciated that having come from the stroke. So I do think if I've said anything worth anything, that being a survivor, not a victim, is the state of mind that I would just wish everybody had who has had a stroke. Okay. And I think that I feel like the people who told me to be a survivor instead of feel like I was a victim are very good friends of mine. And I'm so glad that they did. I'm so glad they got me on that message.
Well, I want to thank you for being here today, Marie. Mm-hmm. I think it was really helpful for me to have a better understanding that there truly can be a very full life after stroke. So I want to thank you again for sharing that, your story and your life, that how wonderful it is for our audience.
Well, it's been fun being here.
And if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, how can they reach you if they had some questions or...
Sure. I have an email. It's mariezell@aol.com. It's MARIEZEL, only one L, @AOL.com.
Well, thank you again.
And I'd be happy to talk with them.
Thank you again for being here. And if you have any topics that you would find impactful or interesting to you, please contact me, or have questions for me, please contact me at seniorsolutions@gmail.com, and we'll see you next time.